Obi-Wan Can Blow Me, Episode 3, The Great Bait and Switch. Now I can understand why Ewan McGregor, hours before launch of this episode, wanted to put the focus back onto Reva.
She's absolutely amazing in this series. She brings so much to the series, she brings so much to the franchise.
Anything is better than thinking about him in this episode. Quite frankly, his character is embarrassing. Vader is meant to think of Obi-Wan as the master, and yet in this episode, Obi-Wan can barely master his own bowels. But he gets led from pillar to post by everybody else in the episode until he is finally and utterly destroyed due to his own incompetence, his own laziness to not even bother to train as a Jedi for the previous 10 years. All he had to do is defend Luke, and yet he simply couldn't be bothered to put in the work to make him capable of doing it. And in this, it leads him to the final destruction of Obi-Wan, where Disney reduced Obi-Wan Kenobi to a cowardly little bitch. We start with Obi-Wan communing with his master, presumably to see if he can transfer him any testosterone through the Force. All of this would have been really useful to do at any point in the last 10 years when you're supposed to be training so that you can protect Luke. But of course he couldn't do that, because he was a little bit sad. But then we get the scene of Vader putting his armor on, and I have to say, this is pretty cool. You see the full damage that the burning did to him. All of his prosthetics being added onto his limbs, and of course his armor being added to him. For me, I think this was the best part of the episode. It was definitely the coolest scene. And coming from Halo, I'm really glad that Vader kept his helmet on during the fight scenes. Zooming in on someone making no expression isn't good television. They do it multiple times just in case you missed his eyebrows the first time. If I was a Sith, I wouldn't choose here for my main base. I can't even begin to imagine the air conditioning bill. Now, Vader's talking to Reva about where is Kenobi, and it's very strange that he's decided to talk to her. We know that she's the lowest of the Inquisitors, and later on someone complains because he's next in line, not her. So why Vader isn't talking to him, I have no idea. If I'm being charitable, it's that Vader wants to play the Inquisitors off against each other, but that's something Sith used to do against potential rivals. And let's face it, it's not like any of the Inquisitors are going to be a threat to Vader. Now, she blames Kenobi for the Grand Inquisitor's death, who might be dead but may not be dead, and nobody knows because nobody's quite sure if Disney gives a crap about canon at all. And Vader's just like, I've been watching you, third sister. Prove yourself and you shall become Grand Inquisitor. Fail and you shall die. If Vader doesn't have anything better to do than keep an eye on Reva, I really question what he's doing with his life. Now, the best character in the episode, or so far in the series, is definitely been Vader. I'm not really surprised that Disney know how to portray a man as evil. Although at the same time, they even managed to destroy Vader at the end of this, so, you know, fun all around. Leia manages to be annoying the instant she steps on camera by going, "Are we there yet? Are we there yet?" Seriously, if I wanted to put up with annoying kids, I'd have them. She's like, can't you use the Force to make the ship go faster? Leia asks him how the Force works, and at this point, Disney probably swerved out of the script when they thought, yeah, we probably shouldn't talk about those midichlorians again. So then she asks him how it feels, and he describes it as if you're scared of the dark and you turn the light on, you feel safe. The Force makes you feel safe. Oh, I'm so glad that just like in Halo, all of the major parts of the universe are now just simply reduced to your fifis. I would question though why, if the Force makes him feel safe, he's chosen for the last 10 years to feel unsafe, while also simultaneously putting Luke in jeopardy because he's too lazy to practice it. The dude has one single mission in life: to protect and train Luke, and he can't do that because he can't be bothered. Oh, you see, I really would like to extend my entire life's work of the Jedi under Luke, but I just can't because I'm a little bit sad. But either way, their automated ship comes into land, and we get to see the automated loading droid. Yes, that's a loading droid. We're showing it you now because it's important later on. This show is just a master of subtlety. But Obi-Wan and Leia sneak out past the droid, because apparently droids don't have any way of just hearing sound behind them. No, they don't see you visually. They don't know anything about it. It's like Metal Gear Solid enemies. Just imagine they're Metal Gear Solid enemies. Now, we see that the Empire are on the planet with stormtroopers, so obviously Obi-Wan, knowing that all of these people know exactly what he looks like and are hunting him, is going to be incredibly careful. He is going to be a man with a plan, because he's got a little tiny child he's got to look after, so he should definitely take charge in this scenario. But of course, Obi-Wan is hindered by the fact that he is a man, and so suffers from just sheer emotional outbursts for absolutely no reason, like this.
That is if our new friend was telling the truth.
Why would he lie?
People are not all good, Leia.
She literally ran away from you in the last episode because she thought you weren't good, and people have been shooting at her all the time. I think she realizes it. If anything, her main problem isn't that she thinks everyone is good, it's that anyone allowed allows her to make any decisions at all because she has the IQ of a spoon. Of course, the show tries to make out that she's incredibly intelligent. It's just that all of her actions actually prove otherwise, because the writers have no idea how an intelligent person would make a decision, because they've never met one in their lives. But we get a monologue from Obi-Wan. This used to all be fields and families, till the Empire came in and ravaged it all. Yes, dudes, the Empire is evil. We don't actually need to be told this. Don't worry, unlike the crew of your show, we've actually watched the movies. And then Obi-Wan hallucinates Anakin, which is weird in this picture, because it kind of makes him look like a flasher. Obi-Wan! Meanwhile, Reva flies to what I assume is some kind of Inquisitor home base, despite the fact that she's just killed their boss. The music really tries to make this scene sound really impressive and important, despite the fact that it's just her walking through a room. I have to say, the Empire isn't great when it comes to efficient use of space. But she walks through a security scanner, which I'm assuming is scanning for weapons. Seems a little bit redundant when everyone in that room can use the Force. So Reva comes in and tells them that Obi-Wan is on one of the mining planets, and they immediately go, "You can't possibly know that!" Seriously, Type B is amazing and everyone can't see how amazing they are, so they have to keep constantly proving themselves and working twice as hard just for everyone to accept them at the normal level that accept everyone else is such an old and pathetic trope. Really, every single time you do it, it is laughable. She's like, "Oh, I traced the manifest." Yes, the manifest, you know, the thing that says where the ship is going, because it's automated, so can't go anywhere else. Yet apparently, no one else in the room except the almighty Reva knows how ships work. And all she says is we should send out all the probes. And immediately, this guy goes, "You are not in charge here," and uses the Force just to spread her out. Honestly, if you're going to do something which is meant to clearly embarrass her, at least make it embarrassing. You're supposed to be evil, make a float in the air, crack a few joints. And he's like, "That seat is mine, not yours. If you wanted the seat, dear, you could have just sat in it." And she kicks off, "Oh, I've just spoken with Vader, and he said that we should send them out. So, unless you'd like to go against Vader's wishes, maybe you should just do as I say." And the guy can't believe it. You spoke to Vader? I mean, Yes, it is a little bit unbelievable, isn't it? But no, don't worry, it was all just a setup for some cliche dialogue.
"I will get what I deserve, and so will you."
I hope so.
Got him! Yes, muttering under your breath as they leave the room. That's how you get a real burn-in. That's a sign of true strength. But either way, they fire off the 3 drones. Kinda looks a bit like they're inseminating somebody. Now, Obi-Wan is doing the sensible thing, mainly because he's an adult and the other person is an ignorant 10-year-old child. And obviously, the sensible thing is to come up with a plan. Is like, "Look, we're farmers, you're my daughter, do not speak, you're a child, and I'm an adult, so I know how to lead things and navigate dangerous situations. You don't talk because you're an ignorant little child that knows nothing about the world." But he's already lost his cool. He arrives at the meeting point and there's nobody there. And then he immediately freaks out within seconds. I mean, I've dated some clingy people in the past, but none of them were as bad as this. Within 3 seconds, I knew it! I knew I couldn't trust him! It's all over! Oh, they're all out to get us! I don't know what we're gonna do now! Oh, this is stupid! The dude completely loses his mind immediately.
We don't know if
No one is coming here, Leia.
What made you so sure of that? Was that the 1.5 seconds you've actually spent on the spot? What if they're waiting to see if you've been followed? What if they need to detect that you've arrived at the meeting point before they have to leave their entire life on the planet and come and pick you up? Do you expect these people to be waiting at the meeting point 24 hours a day, 7 days a week? And if so, all I'm saying is maybe it might be your fault. But as Obi-Wan seems to have all the stoicism of a meth head, Leia immediately takes charge. "Oh, well, if you're stuck here on her own, obviously we need help." She doesn't know anyone here, she can't trust anyone here, but immediately we just need to walk up to the first people that we meet for absolutely no reason whatsoever. The last thing she was told was don't speak, and she can't even keep a gob shut for 2 seconds. So that leads her to just see a passing car and start running it down, waving at it, trying to get it to stop. Obi-Wan should immediately shut this down, but instead he's like, "What are you doing? What are you doing?" She's like, "Oh, they can give us a ride to the station. They're not an Uber. You're on an enemy planet, surrounded by people who want to kill you. Maybe now's not the time to get involved with random locals." And it's not like Obi-Wan doesn't realize the risks.
But it's not safe.
It's just that despite the risks, for some reason, he's allowing himself to be led around by a 10-year-old child. I wouldn't allow a 10-year-old child to choose what I had for dinner, because it'd just end up being marshmallow fluff every day, let alone decide the future plan on a dangerous alien planet. Obi-Wan, though, clearly struggling from when he last fought Anakin, because Anakin lost his legs, but Obi-Wan, Obi-Wan lost his balls. That's how we end up with Obi-Wan telling her to just shut up and not talk to the guy, and then immediately allowing her to run off ahead and start talking to the guy. Hi, I'm Luma, and this is my father, and we're farmers, and we need to go to the spaceport. We're not suspicious at all, and the bounty that's on us with our faces on it, certainly you can't possibly have seen that. And then, of all the unnecessary lines, there's this.
Father, aren't you going to say hello?
No, and you shouldn't be talking either, dear. She's so amazing and has intelligent insights into everyone around her, except in the only time it's actually useful to do. I can't be the only one that was a bit disappointed with this, though.
Hello.
We didn't even get hello there.
Got a little lost in this field.
That's a weird story.
Why are we letting the tiny child that would struggle to work out the difference between a push and a pull door lead the conversation? Seriously, if children are our future, she's going to doom everybody. But Obi-Wan finally tries to take over and says, look, we just need directions to the port. And the alien's very happy. Oh, I'm going that way. You can come with me. No. I just need directions. It's the smartest way out of this thing after she's put them in a horribly dangerous situation. She says, come on, father, we've walked enough, and just starts jumping in the back of the truck of the unknown alien on the planet which is hunting them. At this point, you would grab the child, yeet her into the field, and scream at the little cow. But no, for some reason, the adult is just going to go along with the desires of the little brat, especially when he finds out that the driver is very pro-Empire. For some reason, Obi-Wan deciding to go against every bit of sensible advice he said since the start of the episode turned into a bad situation. I can't imagine why. Oh, but don't worry, because if you think Leia can't possibly get them into a more dangerous situation, you've seen nothing yet. Now, TV shows are expensive, so in Obi-Wan, there's lots of filler scenes. Welcome to it. Now we're having a discussion about we're farmers from Till. Oh, we love the Empire. Yeah, oh, it's nice to meet someone who actually loves the Empire as well. The guy who works for the Empire meets two random strangers that said they got lost in a field, all the while that everyone is searching for an escaped Jedi. Yes, he definitely believes your story at this point. Oh yeah, and this is the situation getting a lot worse. Now, Leia is too thick to realize that this is actually a dangerous situation, but Obi-Wan panics a little bit. I bet Obi-Wan wishes he'd spent the last 10 years training like he said he would, rather than just playing emo music in his cave. Now, the driver tells the stormtroopers their fake names, and then he asks the stormtroopers where they come from. And they say, we're out here looking for a Jedi. Now, all I'm saying is if you met a stranger who said he got lost in a field, isn't from this planet, and is wearing what seems to be some kind of robe, may want to be a little bit suspicious that it might be the Jedi.
Oh, no, we'll find them. Always do.
Talk about misplaced self-confidence. You see, the writers have done this scene to try and build tension, but the tension doesn't really stick when you realize everybody's combined IQ in that entire car is below 80, because they start to ask Obi-Wan basic questions. Where you're from, how did you get here, that kind of stuff. And obviously, Obi-Wan, being incredibly stupid, can't think of a plan. But the intelligent, the amazing, the almighty Leia, her brain works at a mile a minute. She can create stories and narratives completely impenetrable to the Sith mind. But Obi-Wan, the sad, pathetic, aged-old, useless waste of skin which the show is making him out to be, he can't actually think that fast himself. And so when they ask him if he's ever seen a Jedi, he's like, no, I wouldn't know when I ever saw one. And all it takes is for the trooper to go, really? Nothing? And Obi-Wan falls like a house of cards and just goes, oh, well, they know what they're doing, Leia, and uses her real name rather than Luna, the fake one that they gave him. And considering these stormtroopers should know her real name, Luna and Leia is a bit close to not raise suspicion. And why on earth do they not have Obi-Wan's face? Because they had Obi-Wan's face on the last planet, they know the Jedi they're seeking. Why did nobody send the image to the people looking for the Jedi? This entire show is based on we're all really smart, right up until we need to be really thick, and then we're just really thick, because we can't write a normal, consistent narrative where all of the characters remain the same people throughout the entire episode. So instead, the stormtrooper just starts screaming, you called her Leia, you called her Leia! And in quite possibly the worst reasoning ever, it just goes, well, you know, she looks like her mother, and so I used her mother's name. Okay. How come the stormtroopers don't know that they're looking for someone called Leia? Because if they knew her name, they definitely wouldn't let you get away with that one. And with that, they just leave. Oh yeah, we're looking for a Jedi. We don't know the Jedi's name. We don't know what the Jedi looks like. We don't know what the companion's name is. We don't know what the companion looks like. And so we can just stumble on them and not know them. So how on earth does anyone expect these four people to ever find a Jedi? The episode should have ended here with him getting caught. The scene could have even been good if Obi-Wan had just annihilated them all with a lightsaber when he got caught. But this strange idea where we're supposed to think that everyone is thick all the time is incredibly grating. And I can only imagine it's because that is the level of the writers. and so they think everyone else needs to be written at that level as well. Just think the writers go through life as one of those stormtroopers. That doesn't scare you, nothing will. But then Leia's like, you knew my mother, didn't you? Are you my real father? No, I'm not your real father. At this point, I don't even care. At this point, I don't even know why Leia as a character is in the show. She seems to only exist to destroy Obi-Wan's life.
Sometimes I try to imagine what he was like.
He's evil and he wipes out planets. You're not missing much, love. But wouldn't you know, out of the frying pan into the fire, it's almost like getting on a car, which is pro-Empire, is a bad idea and shouldn't be done. But the driver tries to calm him down. Don't worry, I know these fellas. Yes. That's what everybody should be worried about at this point. But he goes out and he tells the stormtroopers, hey, those couple in the back, the couple of strays I found, you want to check them out, they're dodgy. Honestly, I can't believe that the planned narrative of a 10-year-old child wasn't convincing. It's almost like Obi-Wan should have stopped her right at the start. So Obi-Wan pulls up his hood just so he can look extra suspicious, and they come around to the back of the truck and tell the pair to get off. And at this point, they issue Protocol 23, which is very different than Order 66. Honestly, if we're just going to have protocols and orders and everything's going to be a number, quite frankly, I don't know how anyone remembers this stuff. It's no wonder the stormtroopers can't actually work out who's who or remember any names. They're too busy trying to remember all the just list of numbers they've got to coordinate with each other. I'd be lying if I said I wasn't curious about what Protocol 69 was, but knowing there might be trouble, Obi-Wan unbuckles his blaster. He's got a lightsaber, remember, but we're not even going to touch that. And at this point, they summon over a droid just to try and get their identities by scanning the people. Now, as we know from our real world, when you do a drive-by stop and you are suspicious of the people in the back, the first thing you do is just stand there and stare at them. You don't pat them down for weapons or search them in any way. You absolutely, in no way, try to ensure your own safety. That would be stupid. So instead, we're going to allow this suspicious person just to stand there, probably armed. As the droid tries to scan him, the stormtrooper's like, raise your head, because the advanced futuristic facial recognition software can't work unless it's got a perfect passport face-on shot. It was at this point Obi-Wan realized that a fight was imminent. So obviously, being a Jedi, he prepared his lightsaber. No, instead, he's reaching for the very visible gun on his hip, and for some reason, none of the stormtroopers shoot him at this point. Though I'm in the UK, we don't really have that kind of situation, but I do have a feeling that reaching for your hip isn't the best thing to do in that scenario, and it wouldn't end particularly good for you. Neither would pulling the blaster and deciding to shoot the droid first, considering two other people have their blasters trained on your face. But somehow, we end up with this scene. Obi-Wan should have 2 blaster shots in his chest. Obi-Wan shoots the droid, grabs that guy's blaster, and points at this guy, who for some reason has decided to run away from Obi-Wan, rather than just shoot at him. We then get a random spin for absolutely no reason whatsoever as far as I can tell, only for that guy to get shot again before he's even reacted to the first one. We then get the pansiest of smacks from this guy as he comes around behind Obi-Wan. This guy gets shot in the nuts, before the first guy gets flipped, on a final shot on the guy which has already had his balls removed. The strangest decision is using this guy as a human shield, because there's absolutely no way they care about his life in the least. Luckily, Obi-Wan is a far better shot than he was about, 12 hours ago, and so immediately nails the guy at range, who lands on the laser fence and gets cut in half. He then knocks this guy out with a smack to the back of the head, and I would have shot him, but that's me. Overall, I thought the scene was okay. It was over very, very quickly, and there were some stupid decisions made in it, but the action itself was fine. The thing is, that's not what I want from a Jedi. I don't want a Jedi using a blaster on people. You've got a lightsaber. Use your lightsaber. Why are we even here? I'm still not quite sure, though, where this guy comes from. I'm pretty sure everyone got shot. I'm also not sure why he doesn't just shoot Obi-Wan in this scenario, considering his gun's not even pointed at him. But in true cliche fashion, he puts the gun down, and then lol, nope. Somehow I'm going to shoot you before you react and just pull the trigger. Okay. I mean, it's a trope, and on its own, it wouldn't be that big of an issue. But when you put it with everything else in the show, it becomes yet another feather, which is destroying the camel's back. The weirdest part is that he lowers the laser fence, and then rather than driving through in the car, the thing they'll need to actually get any distance on this planet, they just decide to walk? Oh yeah, only to be immediately caught by 3 stormtroopers. He just took out 5 stormtroopers, but 3, ooh, that's different. Doesn't even try and defend himself from the 3 stormtroopers, he just stands there as they lower their only cover. Still just standing there. So they run out, not even pointing their guns at him, and he still just stands there and then puts his arms in the air like he just doesn't care. Oh yeah, don't worry, I'm completely surrendering. I did just slaughter 5 of your guys without even breaking a sweat, but now there's 3 of you. I'm definitely surrendering. Why? Oh yeah, that'd be because the plot demanded it.
Put your head down.
That's a Type B stormtrooper. It's probably worth pointing out they told him to put his head down, but not drop his weapon, which he's currently holding, and pointing at their faces, and no one seems to care. Oh, but don't worry, because coincidentally, or magically, depending how you put it, oh yeah, this officer betrayed them all and was actually his contact that he was meant to be meeting at the point before. You know, the one where he stood there for about 5 seconds and then immediately decided no one was going to meet him, and then allowed the little tiny child to get him into trouble. If only he'd waited at the meeting point, as was common sense, none of this would have happened. Of course, he immediately left the meeting point, got on a car, and drove straight here. Whereas she was late to the meeting point, got there, found out that they weren't there, somehow got back to a base, got into uniform, got into this transport with the enemies, and then drove all of the way here in the time that it took Obi-Wan just to drive here. Timelines and teleporting enemies are either part of the Star Wars canon, or nobody thinks about basic logistics when they're writing a script. Mind you, these are people that have trouble outwitting a 10-year-old girl, so I'm not really sure why I'm surprised. Of course, the drones detected them, so now the Inquisitors know where they are and they're gonna go to that planet. But we get this glorious line from one of the Inquisitors to Reva.
You were right.
Of course she is. You only had to go on the Star Wars Twitter to find that out. It's not as if they're gonna make her wrong. No, they're not gonna humiliate their main character they're using as the shield for all their marketing. Reva's going to be perfect. But they're desperately trying to play up political scheming, and it really is on the level of Halo. Oh, I'll inform Lord Vader. No, he's already been informed. Oh, who can go and tell Daddy first? Yes, that really is the depths of the Machiavellian politics of this show. And she just goes, you want to take the credit? You go right ahead, yes. It's a flashback to the last episode, do you remember? When she said, I would let you take the credit, and then stabbed him with a lightsaber. You know, the guy that she's meant to have been killed, that the show's trying to convince you that he has been killed, but also would break canon if he was, so presumably isn't. Generally, a show would have told you about that, but this one is going to subvert your expectations. So we're at a new village and stormtroopers are wandering around, but there's no need to be scared of those because apparently they have no idea what Obi-Wan looks like. No one's bothered to tell them. She's trying to get them to the spaceport and there's a pilot that's going to take them, but he's not scheduled to leave for a couple of hours, so they're gonna have to lay low first. And all I'm saying is, if you're trying to smuggle a Jedi off a planet from the Empire, move up your schedule? It's like, seriously, what are you waiting for? Well, I would go on, but you know, I've got to finish Kitchen Nightmares first before I can leave the Empire. Look, I want to remain safe as much as anyone else, but Gordon Ramsay might call someone an idiot sandwich. I can't miss that. So she goes across the road to check out the safe house, but Obi-Wan uses the opportunity to calm down Leia. It'll be okay, everything will be fine. And she goes, I didn't do it on purpose, I didn't mean to run away. And I'm thinking, yes you did it all the time. I have no idea how you accidentally run out of a palace into the woods, or if you're talking about you just almost getting everybody killed by going up to the guy who you were told to keep your mouth shut around, you did that on purpose as well. Look, if you want to make a character who is incredibly stupid and just makes terrible decisions all the time, that's fine. But let's at least have them responsible for their own actions and not make everyone else act as if this is all perfectly normal. I mean, this line takes the biscuit, though.
It wasn't your fault, Leia.
Yes, it was. It was all entirely her fault. She caused every single problem we've had so far. She even jumped off a roof for no reason whatsoever. You don't have to be a member of Mensa to know that she shouldn't be making a single decision about her or anyone else's life ever. Because I know that Disney is trying to go for this father-daughter bonding with a baby kind of experience that they had with The Mandalorian. They're just trying to repeat that same emotion. Okay, I get it. But if you're gonna do that, the thing that they're babysitting shouldn't be so insufferable that I just want them to get caught by the Empire. So the two people which are being hunted by the Empire just walk through the village in front of everyone in broad daylight, and apparently no one's gonna notice them. And we enter a droid maintenance building with, obviously, a droid that runs the place. But don't worry, he's on our side, and he's absolutely not another attempt for Disney to get some merch out of this show. We've made sure to tell you that his name's Net B, but he's not merch. Look, he's not merch. He's getting introduced to L0, the other thing, which absolutely isn't merch, which they've already released merch of. Oh, look, the two merch things which aren't merch are friends. Aw. I like this line, though.
He's just a loader. They don't allow them to communicate.
Can we not allow Leia to communicate? I think the show would go a lot better.
Actions speak louder than words.
She got that out of a fortune cookie. But we go through a secret door into a safe house, which is meant to be similar to the Underground Railroad and stuff like that throughout our history. Some call it the Path. Yeah, you might as well have just called it the Underground Railroad. We all know where you've got this from. Oh, we've got these places all over the galaxy. Many Jedi have come through here. Seriously, that Order 66 was crap. It seems to barely got anyone at all. Jedi are just traveling all over the place. But she goes on to explain, it's not just Jedi that are being hunted. It's anyone that's Force sensitive. And little Leia says, but what happens to them?
We're not sure.
If they're little brats, have you just considered getting them to boss Obi-Wan around? Because it seems to be his favourite pastime.
No one ever sees them again.
There's plenty of people in this series I wish I'd never see again, but, you know, we're just not that lucky. At this point of the show, I'm beginning to wonder if Disney have actually invented the cure for insomnia, because I fully believe that the first half of this episode could put anyone to sleep. But it's okay, because this is where the show is supposed to get interesting, because the droid has a visitor. There's a couple of troopers at the door, and they're searching for the Jedi. Of course, they're just going random house to house, because they don't even know what the guy looks like, so how on earth are they supposed to know where he is?
We need to search the premises.
I've got to be honest, I've heard scarier voices. But they basically go round and ask him if he's seen anyone, and this is all just an excuse to show you that he's holding a hammer and that he would go and protect them. Honestly, this guy isn't for merch at all, we promise. And the troopers just write him off as a loader and walk out and leave, just giving a cursory examination around. Fair enough. That's what anyone would do in this room, because there's absolutely nothing suspicious about it at all. So it'd be weird, if anything, if somebody realised that there was. But that's enough to send her into panic mode, and once again, we're back to Obi-Wan being led around by his pigtails. Although, once again, she's not the brightest button in the box.
Someone must have seen us.
Yeah, definitely could be. They could have seen you, or they could have just found the outpost with all of the dead bodies that you just left lying around in the sun. But this makes her panic. She wants to get out there immediately. Kitchen nightmares doesn't seem so important anymore. At the end of the day, if they want to see an idiot sandwich, they can just look at any character in the show. But she uses a button to reveal a secret tunnel, an alternative exit out of that building. And I don't know if you can see, but just if you look down the far end, it kind of looks like that tunnel has multiple pathways, because it looks like it's going to go left and that it can go right, which is important if a tunnel can have multiple exits. And then we get this shot of it as well, which still makes it look like you can go left and you can go right. And it makes sense if you've got a secret tunnel to have multiple paths. That way, no one's going to know which exit you're going to go down if the tunnel is discovered. But at this point, Obi-Wan acts as if he's just been hit by a brick or some kind of hangover. Look, I know we've said I've sensed a disturbance in the Force, but they really started laying this on a bit thick. Even has to steady himself on the wall, he goes that dizzy. Now at this point, it's worth pointing out that when those stormtroopers arrived, it was clearly daylight out of the front door. And since then, we've opened a path and changed our clothes. Generously, may have taken about 3 minutes. So I do kind of have to question how it's suddenly nighttime outside. So Obi-Wan goes to the door to see what the disturbance is, even though shouldn't he be able to know because he can feel it? And at this point, if you're looking out your door and you see that many stormtroopers, maybe just go down the tunnel. You don't really need to see what it is. Just leave. Leaving seems like the best option here, especially when now we've got the 3 Inquisitors here as well. Leaving definitely seems like the best option. Never one to make the smartest decision though. Obi-Wan still looking through the grate until he sees Vader. Okay, now it's maybe the best time to leave, right? You've seen who it is. You've seen they're all there. Leave down the escape tunnel. He's like 25 meters up the road. It's quite surprising that he can't sense you because you can sense him, but he's gonna do it soon. Leave. At this point, it seems like Vader feels Obi-Wan, and then he just starts to kill random people in the street. Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna snap this guy's neck. That'll lure Obi-Wan out, won't it? As it turns out, no, he's just going to sit there and watch. I still have absolutely no idea why. Fight Vader or leave. I don't know why we're just staring at him. So then he has the big brain idea of you two leave down the corridor and I'll distract Vader and I'll lead him away from this place because Vader can feel me and so he won't go down the tunnel after you. It's not a bad plan. Sacrificial. It means Obi-Wan's a good guy. This is the heroic move. Okay, that's fine. Leading them away from the tunnel though does involve moving, so we're definitely not just gonna stand there and stare at him, right? So they run down the tunnel, and now it's Obi-Wan's job to lure him away. The problem is he just goes back to standing at the door staring at him. You know, the door right next to the secret tunnel that you're supposed to be luring him away from. The most surprising part of the scene is how many people Obi-Wan just stared at Vader killing before deciding I should probably leave and distract him. Now Reva wants to go for Kenobi because he's a pansy, so she could probably beat him. But Darth Vader has other ideas. They're gonna sweep the town. They're gonna go and search for others. Seems like a long shot. Seems like you'd have to get very lucky to find anything like that. Well, this is Reva, the greatest Type B in the universe. Reva can do anything. We're never going to explain how she can do anything, but she can do anything. So Obi-Wan runs away from Darth Vader, which is something you're about to see a lot of. However, even though he has sprinted at full pace away from the city, somehow this happens. Vader teleports in front of him. Again, this is something we're about to see a lot of. But don't worry, you know Vader, that villain who, one of the sense of foreboding about him is the fact that he just walks everywhere. There's a sense of determination, like he can't be stopped. But he also never really seems to be in a hurry. I can really imagine Vader putting those cybernetic legs to use and out-sprinting Obi-Wan as he yeets himself at full speed away from the town. Yep, I'm sure that happened. Now, at least at the start of this scene, Vader comes across as very Vaderish. We'll get to problems with him later on, but at least at the start, he's not the one letting the side down. Obi-Wan, however, gets completely destroyed in this next scene. I don't know who wrote this, but they really despise the character of Obi-Wan. They hate this guy, and they were determined to show it, to humiliate him. There was no reason that he would have gone all emo over the last 10 years and completely stopped training as a Jedi and become this feeble, sad excuse for a pathetic little man. Except the reason for all of that was so that they could do this to him, so they could destroy his entire character. Because he gets his lightsaber ready. Oh yeah, he at least gets ready to fight. But then we get this scene, which seems to be straight out of a Carry On film. Yeet! No, I'm not joking, he just runs away, and Darth Vader lets him for some reason. Even seems to disappointingly just turn off his lightsaber. He had the same response to the humiliation of Obi-Wan Kenobi as the audience. So back to Obi-Wan, running at full speed as far away from Vader as he can, and then somehow Darth Vader just teleports in front of him again. Seriously, I don't know what force ability he's using, but that one is useful. Hey, what can I say though? This is a massive improvement for Obi-Wan's lightsaber. At least now, he's managed to get it up. So they're both next to each other, lightsabers out. Surely this time, he's gonna fight him, right? Yeet! At this point, Vader must be thinking, you cowardly little pansy. Look, I know people were asking if the Grand Inquisitor survives, but let's face it, after this scene, the character of Obi-Wan certainly doesn't. Obi-Wan didn't die in this episode, but his character has been completely destroyed. But we're back in the town and the stormtroopers are doing what they do with everyone. They're searching people, dragging them out of their homes. And Reva, obviously Reva is magic. No, seriously, there's no other explanation for what happens except magic. Because she's walking down the street. She sees an android come out of an automated repair shop. And she thinks, oh, androids in automated repair shops? That's so unusual. I better go and investigate this. There's probably, what, hundreds of buildings in that city? No. What I need to go in is an automated android repair shop. Meanwhile, Leia's telling the other Type B that you need to go out and save Obi-Wan because Obi-Wan's just a man. He's not going to be able to protect himself. What he needs is a Type B overguarding him, protecting him. Because as Leia knows, he gets into trouble all the time. I mean, most of it's her fault, but she's probably forgot that. Remember, she did blame him for her jumping off a roof, so, you know, he can't be trusted. So Reva is looking around the automated repair shop. She sees a rack with parts alongside all the other parts and thinks, oh, repair parts in a repair shop? That's suspicious. We cut back to Obi-Wan, who's still running away, and he's just walking along, looking around, can't hear anything. Clearly, no one's nearby him. Somehow, from somewhere, Vader just appears right next to him out of nowhere when he's in the open. I don't know how Vader has learned to teleport, but I do want to know why he doesn't use it later on in the original trilogy. And what follows is finally a lightsaber duel between the two of them. And what we find out is Obi-Wan is completely and utterly useless because he's been a lazy arse for the last 10 years. This is the guy that's supposed to protect Luke. That was his only duty in life. And he just couldn't be bothered to even put in the bare minimum amount of training to even do it. I'm not sure how he was expecting to defend Luke when clearly he's out of shape, out of talent, and can't even defend himself. Obi-Wan in this story is a complete and utter failure. And as such, because they're so outmatched, the lightsaber duel is pretty crap. It's not Vader's fault. Vader's doing what Vader does. They nail that kind of imposing atmosphere. It's Obi-Wan which lets the entire scene down, because he can't even put up the bare minimum of defense, so who really cares? And Vader's insulting him, the years have made you weak, but the thing is, it's true. Except it's not the years which have made him weak. It's his own laziness. He couldn't be bothered because he didn't care about protecting Luke. He doesn't care at all about Luke because if he did, he would have trained to defend him. At this point, Leia finally convinces the other person to go back and help Obi-Wan. And judging by the fight we've just seen, he's definitely going to need it. Meanwhile, Reva is still suspicious about this wall, for no reason whatsoever. So Leia runs off to the end of the tunnel, and as we all know, she is way faster than every adult in the universe, so nobody is going to beat her to the end of that tunnel, because nobody can keep pace with little tiny Leia. The rather pathetic fight continues, and Obi-Wan is on his knees, where, quite frankly, from his performance in this episode, it's where he belongs. And if you want the perfect example of how unsatisfying this entire fight is, We get this where they lock sabers, and then all Vader has to do to break this is this. Oh, a little tiny tap and he completely breaks his guard. What a pathetic weakling. And at that point, Obi-Wan gets force pushed and he can't even defend himself from minor force attacks. Next up, Reva discovers a safe house behind the hidden panel, and then immediately finds the not-so-hidden button to reveal the hidden tunnel. Honestly, at this point, I'm really questioning how secret all of this is. I always thought plot armor just prevented you from actually taking damage, but it seems in Star Wars, plot armor can actually just give you powers to deduce things that you never could have possibly known about as well. I'd love to have been in the writing room. So how does Reva discover all of this stuff? And someone just replied, she's amazing. So Obi-Wan's still running away, which he seems to be quite good at as long as he's not actually chasing Leia. But Vader has had enough. He pulls over a container of what I'm assuming is some kind of fuel. Force chokes Obi-Wan into the air, who has literally no defense because he's lazy. Oh, and he's a little bit sad. Oh. And then he sets fire to all of the fuel. And at this point, I think everyone knows what's coming. As he just yeets Obi-Wan into the flames, you will experience what I had to go through. And you're like, okay, I get this. I mean, we do know from the original trilogy that he's fine. So it's a little bit of a weird scene. And I can't understand why when he's sitting in flames for a long time, nothing happens to him. No, really, nothing happens to him. His coat gets singed a bit, but nothing actually happens to him physically, despite the fact that he's getting force pulled through flames. You're like, but I can only assume like his elbow's getting grazed from being dragged along the ground or something, because there's no other damage on him. It's worth pointing out, though, that Vader can obviously use the force on him from this distance. I shouldn't need to point that out, but the writers forget. But the rebel from the tunnel sees what's going on and is on a mountain overlooking him. I can only assume she went out of one of the other side tunnels of that secret tunnel. You know, those multiple other exits. That's how she must have avoided Reva, the other stormtroopers, and got here so quickly. For some reason, when stormtroopers come up, Vader just puts out the flames, and so Obi-Wan just has a tiny little bit of a singe on his arm. Oh, yeah, that's some great revenge that one of the most evil people in the universe has taken on the person that caused all of their suffering. But don't worry, because she's on a hill with a blaster, and that means she's got a plan. It seems to be to shoot one stormtrooper. Personally, I think I would have gone for Vader myself. The stormtroopers immediately start looking in every direction as if they don't know where the blaster fire came from, even though it's a laser, so you can literally see where it came from and where it went. You should be able to know the exact place that she fired from. Even Vader's like, oh, where's that come from? I don't know. This allows her to get off another shot and reignite the flames. And then the droid comes along and grabs Obi-Wan. Well, Vader's watching from the other side, and I think we all know what happens here. Obviously, Vader uses the Force to get to the robot, completely destroy him, and then start dragging Obi-Wan back through the flames. I mean, this is only done at the distance that he's used it before. Obviously, that's what happens. That's what has to happen. And then the series ends because Obi-Wan is actually captured by Darth Vader, or he has to escape in some way, and that'll be the next episode. That could even be pretty cool. That's definitely what's going to happen. He's certainly not just going to stand there and stare at Obi-Wan as a robot carries him away. That'd be weird. He seems to just be standing there as a robot carries Obi-Wan away. You know, the only reason why he came to this planet in the first place. The guy he wants vengeance on. And he just stands there and stares at him ominously. Yeah, that'll teach him. He's still staring. I'm not joking when I say this goes on for ages. He could also just put out the flames and walk over there to him with his lightsaber. He's already proven he can put out flames. No, he just walks off instead. Oh, well, I mean, if you're going to put a tiny amount of flames in my way, you've got me. What can I say? I'm going to have to go back to the town and let you escape now. What is going on? This is what's going on.
They lost him. He had help to sweep the planet.
They lost him because they let him go, because some flames got in the way, which Vader could have put out. They got away because Vader let them get away, and there's no reason for why he should.
Now we'll never find them.
We should probably take that out on Vader. At this point, none of it's making any sense. I didn't think you could do something as stupid as making a small 10-year-old jump off a building for no reason whatsoever, but now you've destroyed Vader as well as Obi-Wan. I don't know, it's almost as if you enjoy destroying a certain type of character from the past. Of course, Obi-Wan's like, I'm so damaged. My right arm is ever so lightly singed. It doesn't even burn all of his clothes off. He's just got a few patches. In fact, his trousers seem to be entirely fine. I've had greater damage done to me tripping over on a hill. But don't worry, because young Leia is sprinting as fast as she can down a corridor. And as we know, nobody can compete with that. Somehow, Reva is waiting for her. And I've got so many questions. How did she beat the fastest person alive to the end of the corridor? How did she know where the corridor would finish? And if there's multiple different routes and multiple different exits on this corridor, how did she know which exit to choose, even if somehow, magically, she knew all of the exits? But there is an answer, an interesting answer, a very complex and nuanced answer, which nobody can possibly fathom. And that is, she's amazing and magic, and the writers wanted her to know, so she did. Vader can teleport. Reva can teleport. Why? Because we need them to. If ever you have a question of why did this person do this, don't expect a logical and consistent answer. The answer will always be because the writers needed them to. And I think I said this at the end of the last episode, but really, what a mess. This episode was the entire character deconstruction, character assassination of Obi-Wan. There's nothing left of him at this point. He's pathetic. He's weak. This is not Obi-Wan. It was bad enough in the original episodes that he cared so little about Luke that he couldn't even bother to train in order to defend him. That was bad enough. But now he's become his weak little beta self. He did nothing in this episode except get led around by Type Bs. He told Leia to shut up, and she just immediately took charge, and he followed her, even though he knew what was happening was a horrible idea. And it was. He manages to get around that, even though he just fumbles her name for absolutely no reason whatsoever. Oh, the reason is because he needs to appear stupid. And then in a fight, which was at least a decent part of it. And then immediately surrenders to 3 stormtroopers, even though he's just beaten 5 of them on his own. I mean, he beat them with blasters, and I'm not keen on it. I want him to beat people with lightsabers. That's what I want from Star Wars, but that's a personal decision, so whatever. But then the entire Vader fight is so pathetic. He's just running away from him. The fight wasn't entertaining at all because he was so weak. What they needed was Obi-Wan to be Obi-Wan. They needed Obi-Wan to be strong, so the fight was actually interesting, entertaining. There could have actually been a back and forth. They could have been well matched. That would have been a good fight. Instead, the writers are so obsessed with destroying Obi-Wan so they can lift other people up. We need other alternative voices. Reva needs to be amazing. Leia needs to be amazing. That they have to drag Obi-Wan down because they know full well that people will never like Reva as much as Obi-Wan. So they've got to destroy Obi-Wan so there's no one else left. That's why you get laughable characters like Reva that just go around being amazing and magical and everyone likes them and everything just goes their way all the time. Why? Well, it's just because they're amazing. Why? Because they need to be. This is why no one likes the characters, because it's never earned. It's just everything works out for them. They're just amazing at everything all the time. There's no reason she should have uncovered that tunnel or teleported to the other end, but we needed her to, so she did, because she's just that perfect. Now, there were actually bits of this episode that I did like, mainly Vader. I thought the intro scene where he's putting his armor on was really cool, and I like how Vader was portrayed for most of the episode. I think he nailed that ominous vibe. And then right at the end, I think they realized, oh no, we can't do this. We've written ourselves into a corner, so now Vader's just got to be an idiot, and he's got to let him get away. Why? No real reason. I mean, if Vader catches him, Reva can't. We need Reva to be so amazing, so I guess he's just gonna have to let him get away. Why? Well, you know, there's some fire in the way. Sure, he could use the force powers to get over it, or sure, he could just extinguish the fire, but he can't. We don't know why. And that's without going into any of the problems with the canon, that Obi-Wan is meant to be seen as the master, which is presumably why they're gonna have to fight again, because Obi-Wan was the master of nothing in this. He could barely master his own bowels as he ran away in fear. And it really is the pathetic deconstruction, the pathetic destruction of characters which ruins the entire show. The writers, let's face it, the writers aren't very good. But even if they were, if they had to do this to the characters, I don't think they could still make a good show out of it. There's no respect for the characters. What there is here is an aim. They went into this show wanting certain characters to look good and wanting certain characters to look bad, and so far they're managing it very well. Not because the narrative supports it, just because of who they're actually humiliating at every single opportunity. Having Obi-Wan led around by his pigtails by a child is absolutely pathetic. So I don't know, we've got 3 episodes left, and I don't know how Obi-Wan is going to be a master. Is there going to be some kind of time jump where he actually starts training again and actually gets back to the Force, relearns how to use his lightsaber, stops being a pathetic pansy and becomes a man? I don't know. I don't know how they're going to fit that into 3 episodes, quite frankly. They have destroyed him so much, I don't know how on earth they could even build him back up at this point. The sad way to do it would be he goes away for a bit, trains, thinks he's failed, thinks he can't do it, and then Leia comes along and goes, I believe in you. You can do anything you think you can. And then he becomes amazing, and then he defeats Darth Vader. That would be the CW way of writing it. And honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if that's what they did. At this point, I think everyone can see that the leaks are looking like they're going to be true. So we know at least how part of it ends. But the suffering we're going to have to go through to reach that place is, going to be a journey. It's not going to be a good journey, but it's going to be a journey. And with the amount of teleporting people, massive plot holes, character assassinations, and everything else that we saw in this episode alone, Oh, I can only imagine what they're going to do next week. Because you know how these things go. Every episode always gets worse. They can always find a new way to disappoint you. And I kind of can't wait to see how they manage it. But for now, that's it from me. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. Like the video if you like the video. Subscribe. More videos like this in the future. And I will see you in the next one. Bye-bye.